皆様お願いいたします。My name is Kevin Roche. I am the Associate Minister of Rissho Kosei-kai in San Antonio, Texas. I am deeply honored to stand before you today and humbly tell my story of faith and liberation through my practice of Buddhism with Rissho Kosei-kai. I was born and raised in New York. I was the fifth child of 7 children. My father was an FBI agent, and my mother was a cook and a housekeeper for a community of Catholic nuns. My parents grew up as working-class children of Irish immigrants. They raised their own children in a very strict but loving fashion. I was not a tranquil child. I had an explosive temper and was well known to my school and my community as a troublemaker. The school I attended had no plan for dealing with children with behavioral issues such as mine, and as a result, I was treated with increasing physical and emotional punishment. I soon developed self-destructive tendencies and behaviors. I began drinking alcohol and abusing substances at a very early age. My involvement in dangerous street activities increased dramatically. I cannot recall a single pleasant school experience after the age of 9. My school experience became one of dismal failure and rebellion. I alienated myself completely from all of my family activities. Eventually, I left home and moved to Texas. My sister lived in San Antonio and invited me to stay with her. Although I was far from sober, I was able to escape from the darker environments and associations of my childhood. I completed my education and began working in the medical field. During my early career, I married a young woman and we lived for a short time in Iwakuni, Japan. While living in Japan, I had my first experience with sobriety, and I began to find some peace of mind. When I returned to America, however, the familiar ghosts of alcohol and substance abuse returned to my life, and our marriage disintegrated into darkness. In 1986, I moved back to Texas in a state of dread, despair, and divorce. In 1989, my world changed. I met a wonderful woman who is my wife, Barbara. She is here with me today. Barbara supported me in stopping the alcohol and substance abuse with her love and kindness and her insistence that I respect my own life. Thanks to her, the clouds obscuring my vision gradually dissipated and revealed a quality of Buddha nature in myself that I had never known. Now we've spent the last 35 years together living on a farm, raising horses and donkeys, llamas, and dogs. I encountered the precious Dharma in 2004. I was driving past a small building in San Antonio, a building I passed every day. I noticed the sign in front of the building had changed from Chinese kanji characters to English. It said, "Rissho Kosei-kai, everyone is welcome." I nervously turned my car into the parking area. I saw this language change on the sign as the Buddha's message to me. I met Reverend Naomi Nakamura that day. He told me he had been waiting for me. Somehow, I felt that I was home. Reverend Nakamura talked to me about Rissho Kosei-kai and the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha and Founder Niwano. For the first time in my life, I felt spiritually inspired and nurtured. At that time, Rissho Kosei-kai of San Antonio had a Japanese Sangha and a small English language Sangha of perhaps 50 to 70 members. Reverend Nakamura held study meetings of the Lotus Sutra every Tuesday night for our spiritual growth. As I learned the teachings of the Lotus Sutra, my heart softened and my perspective on life changed. In 2008, I had a health scare, and my doctors suspected cancer. I was terrified. When I discussed this with Reverend Nakamura, he told me to go home and chant chapter 16 of the Lotus Sutra aloud in front of my altar. He said these unforgettable words to me: "The Buddha has other plans for you." I felt that Reverend Nakamura was talking about something much deeper than my physical health, but I did not know what it was he was trying to teach me. As it turned out, I did not have cancer at that time, but later his words became invaluable to my life. In 2009, Reverend Nakamura retired. There was no successor in San Antonio, and the English-speaking Sangha members were surrounded by uncertainty. Soon after that, the members began to resign, retire, or simply fade away. The Sangha was desperate for a leader, but I failed to step forward to lead my Sangha. I was too afraid to try. I felt a sense of despair and hopelessness, but I could not leave the Sangha because I knew that if I did not continue to practice the teachings, I would go back to the mistakes of my earlier life. I called the remaining Sangha members, and we organized a study group to read and discuss the Threefold Lotus Sutra and the teachings of Founder Niwano. We began to meet at a local shopping center. We had only a small handful of English-speaking members then, and I felt alone. I did not know how to go forward. Reverend Chris Ladasaw, the minister of Oklahoma Dharma Center, supported me spiritually. Whenever I called her, she always picked up the phone and listened to me. She often said, "If you feel motivated to share the teachings, the way will show itself to you." I remain diligent in my efforts, and I will always be grateful to Reverend Ladasaw for her wisdom and her encouragement. During this time, a wonderful person joined our Sangha. Her name was Sandy. We practiced the Dharma together even during the period when we had only a handful of members remaining in the Sangha. Unfortunately, Sandy passed away from cancer in 2013. Sandy had been living with cancer for many years, but she never showed any sign of suffering and only cared about the well-being of others. Sandy and I were friends in the Dharma, not just in the Dharma Center. We took walks every day and talked about the Dharma. 2 days before she died, I went to her bedside, and Sandy said she wanted me to have her prayer beads, which she was holding in her hand. She then handed me an envelope and told me to read it later. After her death, I opened the envelope and was shocked to find that she had written a list of everything we had ever discussed. Each day after our talks, she had written a list of each topic, especially the Dharma teachings. Her profound practice taught me so much about revering every moment in my life, even the sufferings. I realized that learning the Dharma makes life joyful, while practicing the Dharma makes life precious. In a mysterious coincidence, soon after Sandy died, I was diagnosed with a form of blood cancer. I began those months of chemotherapy with anxiety and a fear of death. The chemotherapy was difficult and frightening, but during those treatments, I visited the Dharma Center every day. I felt that as long as I had my life, I would like to cherish every moment as Sandy did and share the teachings with the members. Later, when Reverend Toshiyuki Kodaka, who was minister of the Los Angeles Dharma Center, recommended me for Dharma teacher, I was humbly overwhelmed with joy. At that time, there were no active English-speaking Dharma teachers and no minister living in San Antonio. So there were no role models to learn from. But I was changing. Thanks to the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha and Founder Niwano, I was equipped with a growing confidence in spreading the teachings. I finally understood what Reverend Nakamura was trying to share with me. The Buddha had other plans for me. In the ensuing years, we developed new and wonderful leaders and welcomed many new members from a diverse population of eager new Buddhists to our Dharma Center. In 2020, I was honored to be named Associate Minister of Rissho Kosei-kai of San Antonio. Now, I take delight in joyfully working with our Sangha members each and every day. Listening to the members in Hosa circles and study sessions, I have learned so much from the wisdom that springs from their experiences and from the way they put the Dharma into practice in their lives and are liberated from their sufferings. The misfortunes in their lives are not scars that diminish them, but shining, healing, and inspiring signs of their spiritual resilience. Today, the San Antonio Sangha has grown to nearly 400 members. The Sangha members, through their bodhisattva efforts, have become rays of light that guide me and cultivate my growth as a leader and as a person. President Nichiko Niwano wrote in his monthly message in October 2017, "It is only after first having had various experiences that we can begin to accept suffering and hardship as valuable experiences for which we should be grateful, and see for ourselves that truly it is only because there is suffering that there is joy." To my worldwide Sangha and my beloved Sangha in San Antonio, I say, my pockets are filled with experiences of suffering, but my heart is overflowing with joy. Therefore, today, in front of the Buddha, I would like to pledge my vow to joyfully and diligently practice the Dharma, to be a fountain of spiritual energy in a weary world,
リーダーとして
and a grateful member and leader of Rissho Kosei-kai, San Antonio,
今後
Texas.
も喜びに満ちた精進をお誓いいたします。
From the bottom of my heart, arigatou gozaimashita.